Guys, there are spoilers for this film and this review, so if you don't want to blow your cover, go watch film, then come back. You have been warned. And welcome back to an episode of Off the Shelf. I'm your host, Ronin Time HD, and this week, what we found off the shelf was...
其實我係差人。
我都唔知嗰人好人定壞人。
你就係嗰隻牌。 我以前冇得揀，我而家想揀翻做好人。對唔住，我係差人。
Infernal Affairs. Now it says the trilogy here. We are not reviewing the entire trilogy. We are just reviewing the first one. This film was released in 2002. It was directed co-directed by, I think it was Andrew Lau and Andy Mack? I'm just going to call him Mack. Also written by Andy Mack and Felix Chong. This film is starring Andy Lau, who is not the same as Andrew Lau, the director. This is Andy Lau, the actor. There are two Andy Laus in this movie. And Tony Leung? I'm very sorry, I absolutely butchered that. Either way, this is a Hong Kong crime thriller. And I will say, this film is just so damn good, man. And I'm just gonna go right off the bat. I feel like I can't describe it. I'm just saying, like, this film really, like, took me off guard, because, I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be bad. I didn't know what I was getting into, right? I read the back of it, so it was a crime drama, and as I said, I didn't know what I was getting into, and what I got was just such a very well put together cat and mouse game between two guys who are basically going through, like, a crisis of identity, right? Trying to figure out who they are after they've been pretending to be another person for a decade, right? But then it's also about a race to see which one can outsmart the other one in time to expose the other one, right? So I know I'm kind of speaking in riddles here, but essentially the film's premise, if you really dumb it down, is about a guy who's a criminal who has been, like, in a department. He was by his triad boss. He was, basically, his job was to become a cop, to be a mole in the department, to help out his boss, to, like, get him out of trouble, right? Essentially, to be a crooked cop to help out the triads. But the other guy was a cop who has been pretending to be a criminal for 10 years. And they both started around the same time, right? And they're, like, kind of opposites of each other, right? Like, one is a good guy pretending to be a bad guy, and one is a bad guy pretending to be a good guy. I really like that dynamic. And the film just really took me off guard with a lot of the things that it did. And a lot of the really clever setups that are really early in the film that, like, they're so early in the film that you forget that they even showed them, right? Until they come back later, you're like, oh shit, that's that, or whatever, you know? And it's like, yeah, I remember that, and that's so cool. You know, the whole movie is like that, and it's just, I think, honestly, I think the thing about this movie that I think is so well done is just it's just so well written, like, the web that it makes, just how everything connects together is so well done. And it's kind of hard to believe that the movie is as short as it is and is able to get as much out of its short runtime as possible, right? And it's like, it's truly astounding. When I looked up that this movie was only like 97 minutes or something, I'm like, really? That's really short for the amount of movie in this movie, right? Like, there's like no dead air, right? Every scene has a purpose, or it will come back later, right? Or it has some kind of implication or some correlation to the theming of the movie, right? It's just so goddamn good. And I think genuinely, obviously the best part is our dual protagonists, right? You know, Lau, the criminal pretending to be a cop, and Yan, I believe his name was. He was the cop pretending to be a criminal. And I really wish we got more scenes with them, because they have such a good dynamic, right? Because I think it's like, they have some kind of, like, begrudging respect for each other, because they're both in, like, basically the exact same situation, just switched, right? They're basically the same person, but well, maybe not. It's hard to describe. They're like if one or the other went down a different path, right? They have a lot of similarities in, I guess, their dilemma throughout the film. Obviously, the main guy, one of the two main guys, Jan, he is like very hung up about he's been a criminal for 10 years, and it's just taken a toll on him, right? And he just wants his old identity back. He wants to live a normal life, right? He doesn't want to be a criminal anymore. But, his superintendent's like, oh, just one more job, and you'll retire, right? He keeps getting them every 3 years. He's like, oh, I got another job for you. Just come back. I got another job for you, right? Keeps reeling them back in. But then, Lau, even though he is a bad guy, right? He's a criminal pretending to be a cop to help the triads do evil shit. He is helping them do evil shit knowingly, because that's his job, right? That is what he's supposed to do. But in the movie, he seems, like, conflicted most of the time. Like, he's trying to figure out, because, like, there's also his significant other who's a writer. She is writing a book, and they kind of use that book as a way to represent his character, right? She can't figure out if she wants her protagonist of her book to be a good guy or a bad guy, just like he can't figure out whether he wants to be a good guy or a bad guy, right? He's like, kind of the whole movie, he doesn't know what he wants to do, because for 10 years he's just doing the same thing, like just following orders. Maybe he doesn't want to follow those orders anymore. And it's like, they're both characters are in like that. Well, obviously the cop is like a good guy because he's like undercover cop trying to stop, triads from doing evil stuff. But the other guy, the criminal, he's a lot more morally gray, because yeah, he's doing bad stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean he enjoys doing that stuff. Like his boss, Sam, he is absolutely loves being a bad guy. He relishes in all the evil shit that he does, right? He loves being bad and he embraces it. But the criminal cop, he doesn't necessarily embrace it. Like, in the film, which is a scene that completely took me off guard, the superintendent that I mentioned earlier, so Lau and the superintendent, they meet in a building, right? But, I think Lau had informed, Sam, the boss, that the mole was gonna be in that building, so of course he sent fucking every guy he had in the city, basically, to go to the building to kill the mole. Right? And of course, they didn't find Jan. They found, however, the superintendent, so they beat him for information. When he didn't tell them anything, they fucking threw him off the top of the building, right? And killed him. And that took me off guard, because I'm like, oh, they're just gonna kidnap him or do something. But no, they fucking killed his ass. Just broad daylight, threw him off the fucking building. And it's like, later, you can see Lau, he went too far. Like, he didn't seem to like it, because, I mean, he had been working under this guy for 10 years. I mean, of course, he had built probably some sort of respect for him. It's not like he was heartless, right? And just to see him, like, get fucking ragdolled off the top of a building like that, that was totally, like, overboard, right? Even he could admit that was overboard. And I think one thing I also really like is earlier in the movie, Sam and the superintendent Wong, they had a confrontation with, all their boys behind them, like all their cronies behind them, and they were having a one-on-one confrontation. And they're like, we're gonna play a game, and whoever loses dies, right? And Sam was like, I'm gonna win. And like, you're gonna die, right? Being super cocky, right? Being like, I'm the best. And the other guy who tried to shake his hand, like, I guess, may the best man win, right? In that regard. But he's like, have you ever seen someone shake the hand of a corpse, right? Being super, super arrogant. And granted, Wong did die first, but that doesn't mean Sam was safe. So eventually what happened is Lau kind of realized that Sam was holding him back, and if he wanted to, he could have just sold him out to the cops, and he was kind of getting to a point where he kind of had to sell Sam out no matter what if he wanted to preserve himself, right? And it's not like Sam wouldn't have done the same thing, right? So it seems like he set him up, right? And he got the cops to come in, and they, ambushed them and arrested his boys, and Sam ran away. He, like, waddled away like the penguin. It was really funny. But then he got into, like, a lone parking garage, and Lau killed him, which also really took me off guard because both of the bosses of their, like, respective sides had been killed. And that, I did not expect that. I thought at least one of them would have made it to the end of the movie, but it kind of made me realize that the main antagonist was Lau, right? I mean, was he a villain? Maybe, but as I said, he wasn't completely all bad. He's definitely not all good, but he's not all bad either. That's why he's such an interesting character, because he's a bad man, but that doesn't mean, I guess he's a heartless son of a bitch, but he's got a heart, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but either way, and this all builds up to an ending, which I'm just going to give a major warning here. I think this is probably one of my favorite endings I've ever seen in a movie, and real quick, before I say it, you should watch this movie because the ending is just so goddamn good, and the movie builds up to it perfectly that it's just perfect, and I'm gonna get into it. So eventually, both Lau and Yan figure out that they are both the moles, right? So it's basically who's gonna take down who, right? Who will come out on top is essentially that, because they both know. So one of them's got to go, right? Both can't win, right? So eventually they have a confrontation, and this is after, so Lau had a lot of conflict, and his conflict was at, like, a maximum, like, at its peak, when his significant other figured out that he was a mole, and that he was a criminal the whole time. And she told him, I can't tell if my main character is a good guy or a bad guy, and that hit him. So he wanted to be a good guy for a change. He was sick of being a criminal, so he wanted to end it, and he was basically turning himself in, right, by letting the other guy arrest him. But then, that's where they throw the curveball. Then an officer who was just, like, some side character that we'd seen throughout, like, he was there, but you'd forget about him. Like, he blended into the other faces in the background. You didn't think he would be important. But it's revealed, like, it looks like he's just as oblivious as everybody else is, right? He's holding the gun. He's like, let him go. Why do I have any reason to trust you? And then they go down, they're going by the elevator, right? And then he fucking shoots Yan in the head, right? Fully kills him. And he reveals that he was the second mole in the department. Because at the beginning of the movie, Sam, the boss, had a whole line of dudes that he was recruiting into the police academy to be his moles. And you'd forgotten that he had a whole line of those motherfuckers. So it didn't even cross your mind that there would have been a second mole in the department. But when you think about it, of course there was a second mole in the department. He had a whole fucking line of them, right? Possibly maybe like a quarter of that department could have been moles for all we know, right? Maybe that's probably hyperbole, but you know what I mean. There's probably more moles in there than we knew about, right? And that's what was so genius about it. And then when you just think that, it's the end and the guy's saying, I guess Sam just never really saw my potential. He was basically talking about how much he wanted to be seen as the top, like as the guy, right? He wanted to be Sam's guy, and Sam never saw him that way. And he saw Lau that way. And they're going down the elevator, and they're going to, confront the cops. But Lau shoots that dude, puts the gun in his hand, says, I'm a cop, because there's cops waiting by the elevator, and he makes up this whole story about how Jan, was an actual undercover cop, and he, died for the cause. He killed the other guy who was the mole, because everybody knew there was a mole in the department, but since nobody knew he was the mole, and the other guy was also a mole, nobody knew there was two, people just thought there was one, so they could peg it on that guy, which he was a mole, just not the mole that they were looking for, and then he took all the credit, and he's now seen as a hero. Granted, so was Jan, but he's dead. But then here's the thing, you might perceive that as evil triumphing over good, but not necessarily, because there are Buddhist quotes at the beginning and end of the film, which I'm not going to recite here because I don't remember them word for word, but I'll give you the gist. Essentially, what it means, or I guess I'll give you the interpretation of it into the story. Where essentially, even though Jan died, and, obviously dying is not great, right? You don't want to die in a very best case scenario. You don't want to be dead. But, when you're dead, you don't really have to live with the bad things you've done, right? Because you're dead, so you don't have to live with it. But Lau, he has to live with the guilt of everything that he did for a decade and what it led to for the rest of his life, and nobody else will know, and the few people who do, nobody will believe them, right? And they're not even certain if it's true. So he's the only person who knows the truth. He's the only person who knows the real truth, and he has to live with that. And that is a continuous hell, like it says in the quotes. And that is more of a punishment than death, is to live with the never-ending guilt until you die. That's more painful than just dying outright. It's, I guess, spiritual justice, in a way that it's worded. And I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. There is no better way the movie could have ended. I think the ending was literally perfect. And when a movie leaves a good impression on you, like the whole movie, I'm like, damn, this is really good. But when that ending happened, I'm like, holy fuck, this movie's fucking great, right? It really amplified my enjoyment. And I know I've probably just been rambling on and gushing about this movie. And obviously it's not perfect. No movie is perfect, of course. I mean, some are, but not most of them aren't perfect, right? But I'm just gonna say, I fucking love this movie, and yeah, it has had a bunch of adaptations and remakes. Fucking Martin Scorsese remade this movie called The Departed. And if Martin Scorsese is remaking your movie, you're doing something right. It's Martin fucking Scorsese. Like, come on now. I'm just saying. I don't know. I'm just rambling. I'm sorry. By the way, I would highly recommend this movie. I'm just going to get to the conclusion. I would highly recommend this movie. If you're a fan of The Departed, if you've seen it, even if you're not, it's just an incredible film. It's not that long, and it's so engaging. I love the cat and mouse. I love the dynamic between our two leads. And it's just a spectacular film. I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of cinema or if you just want a good crime thriller. And with that being said, what would I rate this film? I think I would rate this film an 8 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I've said what I need to say. I think I've said my piece. So, guys, I hope you like this video. Share it with your friends. Subscribe. Turn those notifications on. Comment down below on how much you liked it. And I've been RHG. Off to find the mole. I was doing research on this movie, right? And obviously this film, even though it was spectacular, and Hong Kong offered it as their entry for like the 76th Academy Awards of that year, for it to be nominated for Best International Feature, it wasn't nominated for anything at the Academy Awards, which is fucking really strange to me because it was amazing. Maybe the other nominees were good. I don't know. Either way, this movie's incredible. Should have been nominated anyway. But it's weird because The Departed won 3 Oscars. So it's like the American version you can nominate and have it win fucking Best Picture and Best Director, which is Martin Scorsese's only Best Directing win. What? And also it's like, so you give the American version all these awards and nominations, but the original Chinese version, it's like, nah, we're not even gonna give it the fucking service of even nominating it. It's like, why? I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Why didn't it at least get nominated? It was... Whatever, I'm just frustrated because I really liked the movie and it deserved more recognition. Even though it did get a lot of remakes and a lot of praise. It still deserved more of it, goddammit. You don't understand until you've seen the movie and you'll understand my frustrations.